Hi there. We are going to be talking about describing trends in scatter plots. In this screencast, our lesson objective is to describe trends in scatter plots. Now, in order to have a good understanding of how to describe trends in scatter plots, you have to have a really good foundation in our previous screencast, which is just talking about positive and negative associations. And then we use these trends in many different ways, but specifically we're going to be using this as we describe trend lines, which is one of the features of scatter plots that we tend to use out in the real world. So let's take a look and kind of like review a little bit our associations from scatter plots and, just kind of reviewing, like did they show a positive linear association and negative linear negative linear association, a nonlinear association, or no association. So our first one was negative linear, our next one was no association. We talked about that this was nonlinear, and then we had that positive linear association. So this is just a review of the earlier screencast where we were looking, if it looks like a line, it has a negative slope, we would call it a negative linear. If we're looking at a scatter plot looks like a line that would have a positive slope, that's a positive linear association. Something, it definitely looks like a pattern, but it's not a pattern of a straight line. We would say that's nonlinear. And then finally, when we're just looking at random data all over the place, that would be no association. So that's just kind of like our general review. But what we want to do is describe these trends in words. So I'm just taking those graphs and I'm putting back their titles, the axes labels, and the title of the graph. And what we're going to have to do is go from the scatter plot and saying, yeah, I recognize right away that this has this negative linear association. We know that. But now the question is, how do I describe those trends in words? So let's see if we can take a little bit of a backtrack and figure out. So it looks like, and reading this paragraph, the scatter plot looks like it's trying to show the relationship between the number of hours per day that a student is online, and then the number of classes that they're getting A's, B's, and C's. And I think that we would be looking for non-school hours online. So imagine this graph is describing, because for school, yeah, I know for school we go online, but for this one, let's just say we're talking about non-school hours online. And so let's see if we can write this statement. So the way that I'm seeing this is and again, I know it's negative because as one of my values is increasing, the other value is decreasing. As the number of hours per day that you are online increases, it looks like the number of A's, B's, and C's you have decreases. So what's one way that we could phrase this? We could say that the more hours a student spends online, the less A's, B's, or C's the students are going to earn. And that's really what our negative linear association is going to represent. The more you do one thing, the less something is going to happen. So that was just one of our examples. Now we're going to take a look at another one of our graphs that we've been looking at for a couple screencasts. And we have this one. And this one is talking about the number of dollar lottery tickets you buy and then the amount of money that you win. And that's kind of like what this is saying. And what we want to do is write a statement that's going to describe this. So if we remember this particular graph, it had no real association. It doesn't seem to really be, I don't see a line here in my data. So because there's no association, how do we put this in words? Well, we might want to say something like there's no clear relationship between the number of lottery tickets that you buy and the amount of money that you win. So I'm just trying to pull words from the axes, and I'm trying to pull words from the graph and just try to make a common English sentence. Okay, then let's look at our final example. And here, again, just looking at this graph, I realize we're going to have this positive linear association. As one value increases, so does the other one. And we're going to be looking at, it looks like the gas mileage of electric cars, and this is talking about the number of gallons of gas that it uses, or maybe this should be a hybrid car, I don't know, and the number of miles driven. So here again, we know that it's a positive linear association because if this were, you know, an equation of a line, it would have a positive graph, but don't forget it also means that as one value increases, so does the other. So we would say that as the number of gallons of gas the car has used, the higher the number of miles the car can drive. So that's what that positive linear association is going to mean. And again, we're just trying to make it or rewrite it into a typical English sentence using words from the axes. That's just what we're trying to do. So hopefully you have a good sense of how we can now describe trends using an English sentence that we see coming from the scatter plot.